When you reach a certain age, there comes a moment of reevaluating life's priorities. You may have noticed that the things we chase after in our youth, loud parties, countless acquaintances, and the constant need to be at the center of attention, stop being the main source of happiness. Especially after turning 70, more and more people find that a wide circle of social contacts no longer brings the same joy, and sometimes even becomes tiresome. But can a person really live without friends? Isn't loneliness something we fear at any age? Stay with me until the end, because you'll discover why, in your later years, the belief that you need a large number of friends turns out to be a myth, while a sense of peace and freedom becomes a new reality that opens another chapter in life. First of all, let's clarify. No one is suggesting you cut off everyone around you. This is about not having to force yourself to maintain hundreds of casual relationships that may have already run their course. Does having countless friends truly make us happier at 70 or 80? Or are we just afraid of being alone and therefore clinging to old social rituals? Let's take this step by step. One of the biggest illusions that often follows us in our younger years is the drive for recognition. In our 20s, 30s, or 40s, we seek new jobs, climb the career ladder, and try to fit into circles we view as prestigious. We develop lots of acquaintances because that's what's expected. You're supposed to have many friends. You need to be in the loop and attend gatherings so you're considered part of it. But sooner or later, we realize that the longer we live, the less we need to prove ourselves. Social approval stops being the main focus, and people who only provided that approval out of habit or friendly inertia fade into the background. As we get older, we become more selective, seeing clearly who truly supports us and who was there simply out of politeness or convenience. This leads to the question, do I really need all these relationships now, at a time when my strength and resources might be limited, when my time and health come first? At 70, it's no longer about chasing the status of someone with lots of friends, because that means nothing if those people don't bring you peace and fulfillment. I want to emphasize an important point. Many people in later life are anxious at the thought of having fewer social contacts. They fear that's a surefire path to loneliness, and loneliness leads to depression and a loss of drive. However, being alone and being lonely are two different things. Solitude is a choice that allows you to spend time on your own, enjoy what you love, and bask in silence without having to prove anything to anybody. Loneliness, on the other hand, implies that a person wants to socialize but can't find the opportunity or has no one to rely on. These are two different concepts. Solitude can be a conscious lifestyle that brings inner calm, while loneliness is an unwanted condition of feeling cut off from the world. You've probably noticed that many issues stemming from countless contacts aren't due to a sincere desire to be friends, but come from obligation or fear of appearing unwanted. A person answers calls, responds to invitations, insists on meeting up because they're afraid of being forgotten if they don't. But what does this ultimately lead to? Often, an empty feeling after each encounter where the same grievances are rehashed, where the conversation revolves around gossip, and there's little genuinely uplifting discussion. As a result, you spend your energy on maintaining illusions, while deep down you've long realized, do you really need that kind of company? Peace and the freedom from unnecessary social ties become especially valuable once you realize how precious each passing minute, hour, and day of your life really is. By age 70, you can't help but reflect, what have I accomplished? What have I managed to do? How have I lived my years? And you reach the conclusion that spending your remaining time on empty talk and formal visits is unproductive, to say the least. Many who've crossed this threshold speak of the incredible sense of relief they felt when they learned to say no to routine gatherings and invitations they had accepted before merely to be polite. In place of those obligatory outings, they found a wonderful new window of time for walks, reading, watching favorite films, or simply enjoying quiet evenings with their nearest and dearest. In the end, there might be just 2 or 3 people left in your life, but every conversation with them is truly fulfilling. Keep in mind that we're not suggesting you turn away anyone who calls. No, there's a difference between warm, genuine relationships where both parties appreciate talking and seeing each other, and social connections that exist on autopilot. After 70, every meeting or phone call is now part of your limited energy reserve, making it all the more important to spend it only on those who reciprocate. Having friends after 70 doesn't disappear. It becomes more meaningful. You start filtering the world through the question, what's more important to me right now? Another routine visit or peacefully reading a new book in my favorite chair? And you might be surprised to find that the latter brings you greater happiness. There's another reason why a narrower circle of friends can actually make life richer. It reduces the potential for disappointment. When we're young or in middle age, we often form friendships assuming our friends will stand by us through thick and thin. In reality, people change, their priorities shift, and not all are willing to stay close for decades. Some find it easier to hang around when you're useful, but disappear when you retire or face health issues. Each such episode is a painful jab, a disappointment that can shake our faith in real friendship. Eventually, we realize that we spent a long time looking not for friends, but for people with shared interests who leave at the first sign of difficulty. Then we start placing higher value on those who remain regardless of the circumstances. And if that circle is not 10 people, but just 2 or 3, that's perfectly fine. At least you know these people genuinely support you with both words and deeds. Meanwhile, there's no need to feel guilty if you let go of those who don't truly care about you and only keep your number on their phone out of habit. Another factor after 70 is your personal health. Older people often face physical ailments, and energy levels aren't what they used to be at 40 or 50. Frequent social calls, hosting get-togethers, or attending events with long-lost friends can be very draining. Back in youth, you might handle half a day in a noisy crowd and then go out again in the evening. But now such activity can exhaust you for days. Is it really worth compromising your well-being for a questionable social reward? Health is priceless, and regaining it at this age isn't easy. That's precisely why many prefer the comforts of home, a quieter lifestyle, and the joy of tranquility that allows both the body and mind to rest. You can see how social stereotypes can be harmful. People often say, without a social life, you'll just wither away in old age. But a social life doesn't necessarily mean dozens of people who no longer have a real need for you. It may be far more beneficial to maintain just a handful of truly close individuals, family, genuine friends, kind neighbors, whose company you really enjoy, without turning it into a draining routine. Moreover, if you realize you don't have that circle of friends you genuinely want to see, you can redirect your energy into broadening your own horizons, exploring new hobbies, taking up light exercise, or tending a small garden. You might find companions among art enthusiasts or at a local library's literary club, where people gather not just for small talk, but for a common purpose. Sometimes that's exactly where you find deeper connections than the ones held by habit for many years. It's often in older age that we finally realize our richest resource is our inner world. We learn to savor life's simplest pleasures, the smell of tea in the morning, an unhurried walk, a favorite piece of music, and we're in no hurry to dash out the door for yet another frantic errand. All of a sudden, everything we truly need for happiness is already within us. This stage of life is an excellent time for reflection. Think about why you maintain certain connections. If you're only doing it so you don't offend someone, maybe it's time to think of your own well-being first. Some may object, but the older you get, the higher the risk of being forgotten and unwanted. Let's be honest. If people valued you only because you were the one keeping up the relationship, then it probably wasn't a solid friendship. Those who genuinely treasure you won't leave, even if you do reduce the frequency of contact. Real bonds shouldn't feel like obligations or guilt. They should arise naturally. Notice those acquaintances with whom you can go months without talking, yet when you finally do, the conversation flows seamlessly. That's a sign of deep mutual respect and understanding. Such relationships are worth maintaining. But do you want to keep engaging with friends who sulk if you skip yet another gathering? Once you pass 70 and get a chance to reconsider your social ties, there's often another trigger. What if I miss out on news and happenings? Let's be frank. What kind of news do we really get from everyday chatter? Gossip, complaints about life, talk of aches and pains? If you've grown tired of this information noise, maybe it's much better and more peaceful to forgo it. Use that newfound energy for pursuits that enrich both your mind and heart. Reading enlightening books, watching documentaries, or learning new technologies. Often these pursuits provide far more substance for conversations with a small, meaningful circle of people than repetitively hashing over the same stories in a long-standing social setting. A crucial point is the freedom to express your thoughts and emotions. When you have a large number of acquaintances, you frequently can't voice your opinions openly for fear of offending someone. One friend might disagree politically, another might object due to religious or personal beliefs, and you end up in yet another unproductive debate. You either remain silent to avoid conflict or else exhaust yourself in arguments. But in a smaller circle where people accept you without trying to change your views, you feel much freer. You can discuss anything you like, knowing you'll be met with understanding. By reducing the friend list, you might well gain real freedom of speech. Another aspect often overlooked is the sense of empowerment that comes from stepping away from habitual but unfulfilling relationships. If you hold on to certain people only out of fear of being alone, it means you're uncertain about your own strength and doubt you can be happy relying on yourself. Yet life shows that as soon as you decide to reassess your relationships and set boundaries, you discover you have enough inner resources to stand on your own and find meaning in life without endless external validation. It's incredibly liberating to realize you can manage your time as you wish and not be chained to others' demands or expectations. Of course, it's important not to swing to the opposite extreme of total isolation. We're not talking about barricading yourself indoors and refusing to see anyone. If you have children, grandchildren, close real friends, or kind neighbors, by all means cherish those connections. But ensure these interactions are genuinely enjoyable rather than based on a sense of duty. Each meeting should be something you look forward to, not an obligation. Call your kids because you miss them, not because you feel you have to check in. They'll appreciate knowing you call by choice and not by rote. Another benefit of having more personal space is that you can fill your life with pursuits that truly spark joy. Many people over 70 discover a flair for painting, writing poetry, creating stories, or sharing their wisdom in social media. Some start gardening, finding delight in the process of tending flowers or berries. Others take up dancing or Nordic walking and suddenly get a second wind. You don't always need large groups, sometimes just a few like-minded people, or even doing these things on your own can be enough. One critical realization is that when you feel self-sufficient, you stop fearing that others might leave your life. Those who truly care will stay, and those who don't probably were never wholeheartedly committed in the first place. Interestingly, when you're at peace with yourself, you begin to attract precisely the people who complement your life instead of draining it. At any age, we draw in what resonates with our inner state. Yet another reason many older adults choose solitude is that they consciously avoid conflict. The more acquaintances you have, the higher the odds of constant friction. Someone's unhappy about politics, another disputes religion or everyday matters, and someone else is fueled by talking negatively about others. As the years pass, we realize our peace of mind is precious, and we have no desire to be pulled into endless squabbles. It's far simpler to live when those around you accept you without trying to reshape your worldview. When there are fewer contacts, each meeting can feel like a little celebration rather than a battlefield. Psychologists often mention the social effect, meaning that the more people you know, the likelier you'll encounter someone whose viewpoint is drastically different from yours. While this can broaden our perspective, in one's later years, stark contrast can be stressful, especially if we hold beliefs formed over decades. As a result, you feel unsettled by that outside pressure and your spirits drop. By reducing your social circle, you consciously protect your emotional health and focus on your own interests. Another trigger for older individuals can be memories. Old friends might remind you of your past, which isn't always pleasant. If a person went through tough events, loss, divorce, or misfortunes, hearing someone bring them up repeatedly can stir painful emotions, even if it's said as, "It's all over now." Friends from the past may keep dragging you back into the same stories of old grievances or difficult situations, generating negativity. By limiting those interactions, you allow yourself to live in the present instead of in a constant retelling of what went wrong before. But perhaps the most important message here is that after 70, you have every right to act according to your own inner needs. Do you need social contact? Of course, but only the kind that lifts you up rather than drains you. Do you need to maintain 10, 20, or 30 old acquaintances? Only if each one truly nurtures you. But if you do it just because we've known each other for so long, you might ask yourself, isn't it better to spend this time on something that inspires me right now? Believe me, many people at this stage of life say they feel a great sense of relief once they stop forcing themselves to keep up with everyone. A key question arises. How do you find the balance so that solitude doesn't become isolation? The answer is simple. If you feel genuine warmth and excitement at the thought of meeting a certain person, then they belong in your life. If instead you feel obligated, annoyed, or burdened, it might be time to reduce contact or let it go. It's vital to give yourself permission to do this without guilt, because protecting your mental and physical health is now the priority. Another noteworthy point is that many seniors become more empathetic. They sense when someone is speaking from the heart and when they're just being politely formal. Trust that intuition and don't be afraid to put things in their rightful place. Our society sometimes sees a radical change in one circle as betrayal. Yet there's nothing traitorous about saying, I'm sorry, but we now want different things from life. Let's not hold this against each other. Let's each go our own way. Believe me, doing so makes life healthier and more authentic. Finally, it's important to know that stepping away from meaningless social ties is not selfish. It's a sign of self-care you've earned after a long life, during which you've worked, taken care of loved ones, and overcome hardships. If you feel now is the time for silence, inner harmony, and calm gatherings with those you truly cherish, then that's exactly as it should be. And rest assured that those who truly love you won't go anywhere. They'll accept your choice and support it if they are, in fact, genuinely close. That's why you shouldn't fear the idea that after 70, your circle of friends might shrink significantly. In many cases, it's a natural process. You let go of other people's expectations, the weight of obligatory interactions, and the stifling sense that you owe someone your presence. Instead, you move toward a new way of living where your interests, health, and inner peace come first. And surprisingly, this path opens up room for positive changes. Many people in their 70s discover renewed creativity, learn new skills, and find genuine fulfillment in simple things they never had time or energy for before. Some of you may still worry, what if I lose all my friends and end up alone? The answer is that you won't lose true friends even if you talk to them less frequently. Plus, in spending time with yourself, you gain a vital ally, your own personality, which you may have spent years stifling to meet someone else's expectations. That's how people often uncover hidden talents, inner wisdom, and spiritual aspirations. And who knows, maybe you'll gradually find new kindred spirits who are truly in tune with you. So if you're watching this video and wondering whether you should keep up relationships that you've long found tedious, be honest about how you feel after each interaction. Or do you feel lighter and happier? Or do you feel drained and irritated? If it's the latter, it may be time for a change. You can always maintain warm ties with those who bring you joy. But don't force yourself to do so out of social convention or fear. That simply isn't the best approach for someone who wants to spend their golden years contentedly and in harmony with themselves. What's remarkable is that those who make such a decision often report a better quality of life. They're no longer chronically tired from the never-ending should I go or not social dilemma, headaches subside, stress levels go down, and they find new freedom and a sense of returning to themselves. At the same time, they feel happier, and relationships with truly important people can even improve. That's priceless. To sum up, after 70, you have the right to choose with whom you spend your precious time and from whom you part ways without guilt. It's within your power to reduce social circles that no longer bring you joy. It's within your power to live peacefully, surrounded by people who truly matter. It's within your power to enjoy your hobbies and your own company without fearing judgment from others. Life is your greatest gift, and you know better than anyone else what makes you happy and fulfills you inside. If you've stayed with me to the end, this topic clearly speaks to you. I wish each of you to find that golden mean where there's minimal stress from pointless interactions and maximum inner harmony. Live with pleasure, connect with those who matter to you, and don't push yourself to meet others' expectations. Always remember that your happiness is in your own hands. You don't have to keep people close if your heart doesn't want to. Let go of whatever no longer serves you, and you may find the lightness you've been yearning for. Thank you for listening. I hope you found something here that resonates with how you feel. If this message was helpful, please share your thoughts and tell us what friendship after 70 means to you. It would be very interesting to hear your perspective and perhaps your personal stories. Take care, and remember, it's not the number of friends that defines your worth, but how content and at peace you feel within. And sometimes recognizing that brings true happiness in your later years.